currently a professor of international management and strategy at Copenhagen Business School. My background, well, before I got into academia again, I was trained as an economist and worked in financial industry for a decade. So I that way got into risk management issues. That's part of the business. As I progressed in my academic life, which is now taken on 25 years plus, I've been looking into many of these aspects, including extreme events, disaster handling, but also linking it to strategic issues. So what I observe is financial risks. Yes, we look at those; they're important. We think we know how to handle them, but these risks are not really the most important ones. Some of the really impactful risks are what I would refer to as operational or strategic risks. And they're characterized by being very hard to identify and quantify in advance. And I think we've seen some of those recently in extreme forms. Well, a global financial crisis, if we remember that. We've had a pandemic. We knew these things could happen, but we had no idea it would proceed as it did. And I'm sitting in that heck of the bush where there is a terrible war going on right now that has had major repercussions for economic life. So how do we deal with these things? That's part of the things I feel very challenging, and it's more than timely. I can come up with more issues that are threatening us, but we'll take that as we get into the course. I'm sure we'll have some productive discussions about that. Well, I think the structure we will pursue is, some relatively condensed sessions of say 3 hours over 4 to 5 days at a timing where people can attend, even if they also at the same time go on the jobs. And it's basically, well, the core structure is really around a book. I can show it. It's not that thick, but it has good content, and it's just actually published in 2022. So that will lead us through various parts of the course, including different case studies. Well, it presents the theories, it presents live cases, very recent cases, to explain the different issues. Well, my teaching style, I guess, is yes, present some of the background, but very much open to discussion and interpretations by all participants. In reality, when you deal with professional people, you learn as much from them and from each other as you do from a textbook. I mean, it's just a way of trying to organize thoughts and present, how some people think about this and how various events in recent time can help us think about this and maybe better understand the challenges we're faced with. So the starting point is to look at some of the conventional ways of looking at risk. How do we deal with this? Looking at how what is often referred to as the enterprise risk management frameworks. What do they entail? How do we use them? And some of the observations I have made, I think, is that these formalized frameworks are good at dealing with risks you can identify in advance and where you have sufficient data to quantify. The problem or the challenge is that you can't identify all the things that hit you, and the really serious events that hit you are very hard to quantify. So how do you deal with this? Another aspect, and hence the title of strategic risk leadership, is that not only are the strategic risks some of the most serious exposures you have, but the way they often develop in adverse ways are linked to the way leadership handles or mishandles things. In other words, and very often these things are subconscious. I mean, we are as individuals, all of us, subsumed to different biases and behavioral artifacts that have adverse consequences. So we will, as we develop the class, move into more discussions about this, including various examples of how these have panned out in different situations and different cases. Strategic risk leadership is important in any context. I sit in Denmark. We don't have major natural catastrophes, but Greenland is part of the kingdom. If all the ice melts on Greenland, what do you think is going to happen with the sea level in Denmark? We will be very, very exposed. When is this going to happen? How is it going to affect us and so forth? Well, we need to think about these things, but there's a lot of uncertainties and unknown factors around this, although we know that something is pending on us. So that's kind of a regional perspective, right? If we look at Aruba or smaller communities that are exposed to, say, some natural disasters, hurricanes, you heard about that phenomenon. Particularly if such extreme events have an impact on smaller economies, then it will have relatively more severe consequences. So thinking ahead of how can one deal with these things is part of the game. And hurricanes, I mean, that's part of the climate change. What kind of climatic patterns are we going to see as we go forward? We have some ideas. I'm not really, it's not my field, right? But even those that are experts in the field, there's no way they can forecast it with any kind of precision. What we know is that in these dynamic, complex systems, if we continue to press them, something serious can happen, and it can happen very quickly and be very extreme.
It's a very practical course. On real-life examples, a professor explains why certain risk management methods that we are used to don't work in practice, and how to make it effective instead. The biggest learning points of this masterclass was the importance of values in the organization and in the risk management, because people can always go around controls, but it is really the values that drive their behavior. Professor Andersen is a very excellent speaker, and he has also practical experience with risk management and also the academic background. So that was very nice to work with him, to listen to him. He opens up the class for a lot of discussion, so there is a lot of practical and discussion aspect to the course, which was really learningful.